Direct from Foxborough, Massachusetts, the gem of Norfolk County, and taped at the studios of Foxborough Cable Access. It's Foxborough Central. And here's your host, Bob Hickey.
Welcome to another episode of Foxborough Central. My name is Bob Hickey, and I'm so pleased that you took time to join me and my guests here today as we talk about the people, events, and organizations that make Foxborough truly the gem of Norfolk County. Speaking of my guests, I am pleased to introduce Paul Hoy. Mr. Hoy, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you very much for having me today.
Great. And Paul is as we here at Foxborough Cable Access are, volunteers. We volunteer to help the community, and you are, by my understanding, a super volunteer with the American Red Cross. So as a volunteer with the American Red Cross, does that mean you just give blood? Well, I give blood, which makes me a volunteer.
Which makes you an everyday hero. That's perfect.
I like that, everyday hero.
That's perfect.
So how do you fit into the Red Cross world?
Well, first of all, the term superhero may be a bit overstated, so I appreciate the introduction. I'm a Red Cross volunteer. In addition to being a blood donor, I'm a Red Cross volunteer in the disaster services. So that's an organization that responds to fires, mass casualty incidents such as the Boston Marathon incident. When you hear about shelters being open for blizzards, it's the Red Cross that staffs those. So I'm a volunteer in that organization, which means I'm one of the people that respond. And about a year ago, I was fortunate enough to be asked to help organize a team on the South Shore as a disaster captain. Which means I also play a larger role in the training and bringing team members along and making sure that we're staffed to respond to incidents in communities.
Okay. Well, volunteerism, I believe, is what we're going to talk about today. And Paul Hoy is the representative, if you will, that was chosen by the organization as being the face of what a wonderful volunteer is. So some of this is going to be a bit of a brag sheet, and some of this is going to be really our attempt to turn people on to volunteering for the American Red Cross, because as with any strong organization, you are built upon the shoulders of the participants. You know,
Absolutely.
A company is only as good as the people that work there, right? And the workers
Absolutely.
with the Red Cross, you have workers, but a lot of it is volunteer driven.
Right.
And I guess we'll start at the beginning. And by the way, folks, we will be interspersing our conversation today with a few short videos of other volunteers. So I hope you're going to stay with me, because this is going to be a pretty cool program. How did you get involved? We'll go back to the beginning.
Yep.
How did you start with the Red Cross?
I reached a point where it sounds trite, but I really wanted to give back in some way. I had some time, and I wanted to find a vehicle where I could help and take advantage of some of the talents and gifts that I'm able to contribute. So about a year and a half ago, I had been exposed to the Red Cross in the past. I've been a volunteer CPR instructor for a number of years. So I was looking for where the Red Cross might be locally, tracked down the local office, and very benignly signed up and checked off that yes, I'm interested in being a disaster volunteer. So that was about a year and a half ago, and things have just mushroomed since then.
So you've only been doing this for a year and a half?
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct. It's been a busy year and a half.
It has been. Well, sometimes greatness is thrust upon, and sometimes just happen to be in the right spot at the right time. And I understand from talking with folks at the American Red Cross that you were very involved with relief efforts during the Boston Marathon bombing.
That's correct. I at that point had been a volunteer for probably 5-ish months, and was working at home that day, and had a personal connection with it. My wife was actually in at the Forum restaurant where the second explosion took place.
Wow.
So she was part of supporting a team that was running to support a foundation. The call came in. It was, through social media, things happened very quickly, and saw a feed. Can somebody tell me about the explosion at the finish line? Well, obviously that's the kind of thing that piques your curiosity. Mm-hmm. And then right after that, my wife, to her credit, sent me a 2-word text that I'll never forget: "I'm okay." So I didn't know what she was okay from, but that freed up my mind. I knew she was fine. Literally about 5 minutes after I saw the "I'm okay," the phone rang asking if I could go pick up one of our emergency vehicles and stage. And then that began what became over a week of very heavy activity. coming home a little bit to catch a nap and shower and then go back to volunteer.
Well, the Boston Marathon bombing was not only a tragedy, but it's so far-reaching as far as the people it touched. And that's an incredible connection that your wife was in the Forum restaurant, and thankfully she's okay. Yes. Many people weren't, and that would have been such a even greater push-pull as far as getting involved and being a leader, as you were, during the relief efforts and providing comfort and aid to those who were victims. That's got to be the toughest thing, though.
Well, it is, yeah. It really created a lot of tension in my mind right at the first few minutes. So I found a way to split the difference. They told me to stage a Red Cross vehicle. They didn't tell me where. Mm-hmm. So I went to a spot by 128. I actually was in the Zavarian Brothers parking lot, and I figured I could go south, I could go east, I could go north, and my first priority was there is if my wife needed to be picked up, I could get in easily from any of those directions. And then once she was okay, let me switch my mind to, okay, now I'm focusing completely on the response. But even after that, when the response started to slow down days later, we had some serious conversations about at home because, frankly, I didn't support her as well as I would have liked to in those first couple of days because I didn't see her for many, many hours afterwards, and she had been right in the middle of it. So volunteerism does create some tension because a lot of times, most times, you're responding to incidents that affect other people and you're helping strangers. But every once in a while, you get one of those that hits close to home and you're making some of those choices.
Well, for people who volunteer, everybody gets involved for a different reason. And you had alluded to you're a CPR volunteer, and many of us who are part of civic organizations or work in certain industries, we, of course, have to go through the mandated CPR and defibrillator training and that sort of thing. So it's interesting to see the path of how you get involved. And would you have thought 5.5 months prior to the Boston Marathon that you would have been in that situation? Was that ever something that crossed your mind?
Never remotely crossed my mind.
And yet you're in that situation, you're thrust into that role. And what are some of the takeaways?
There's a couple things. First of all, you are more prepared than you think. The Red Cross provides great training. You get your experience at the regular responses, the house fires, the incidents. You learn how to respond. Mm-hmm. You draw upon your skills. You draw upon your empathy. You draw upon your training and your ability to connect with people. And then when the incident happens, you take over, your training takes over.
Well, that's what they say, the training kicks in, right?
Exactly. And you're surrounded by many talented people. Yes, we're talking about my response, but I was part of a team with over 300 volunteers that participated over the course of the activity.
Well, I was going to ask, what was the scope of the response? You say 300 volunteers. That's a pretty significant response.
That's a incredibly large response for any one incident. That only rivals things along the scope of Hurricane Sandy or some of the tornado responses. And it stands out as the largest in Eastern Mass. But it was a very large, very well coordinated response that had different phases to it, as most of our responses do. You have the initial phase where you're serving the initial clients. You're serving the people that are impacted, be it helping with sheltering, helping with feeding, helping with just notifying other people. The Red Cross has a way where you can register your SAFE. We call it Safe and Well. So if you can imagine, here's tens of thousands of people that were directly impacted, hundreds of thousands that were in the area. We provide a vehicle where they can send that two-word text in effect that I'm okay. And then we move into serving responders down the road. And then there's follow-up care to the clients. So
because, of course, they require support also. And there's stories of restaurants opening their doors and feeding the first responders. But it became such a long, drawn-out event that there was a lot of logistics involved.
That's right. And Bob, you asked me about takeaways. That's probably my largest takeaway, just the generosity of folks. People that came in and became situational volunteers. Say, hey, I'm here to help. Where can I sign up? Organizations that said, I have tons of food, well, tons is probably a slight exaggeration. I have large amounts of food available. Who can we give it to? Mm-hmm. Community partners, grocery store chains that literally sent us tractor trailer loads of water when we requested it. Wow. So it was a great takeaway to see that volunteerism in action.
Well, that's I suppose the embodiment of the Boston Strong message is
that's exactly right.
Came together.
That's exactly right, and you touch base on logistics as part of that. That's another whole aspect, just the logistics that support these incidents too. So there's a lot of different facets to the disaster relief.
And I suppose when I And again, I'm here with my guest, Paul Hoy, who's a volunteer with the American Red Cross. What is your official title out there now?
I'm a volunteer captain with the Disaster Services.
Okay, so you're a volunteer captain with Disaster Services, which means you're the one that gets the call to bring the truck, to contact volunteers, to coordinate.
And that's a part of it. So the way we work is, I've actually been, and it's a great volunteerism discussion to have in a moment. I've been fortunate enough to help build a team of 28 people in the immediate area, and that's just one team of several that supports what we call the metropolitan Boston area. So it's actually that 28-person team and that extended team that sign up for volunteer shifts. So they don't just randomly call me if they need help. I'll sign up for a shift. My other volunteers will sign up for shifts. And we literally will get called in the middle of the night to go respond to a house fire where people have been impacted.
Okay. So if somebody out there is looking to volunteer with the American Red Cross and perhaps touch some lives in a positive way the way you have, the way to do that would be to contact the Regional American Red Cross office. I think it's in Cambridge, correct?
That's correct.
And their telephone number is 617-274-5231. Cheating looking at my notes because anybody who's a fan of me knows I can't remember things. I have to write it down. But there's also, in addition, I'm sure, to going to the American Red Cross website, which is easily found, you have a Facebook presence.
Exactly.
And you also have a Twitter presence.
That's correct. And those are, in addition to the broader Red Cross, we have Facebook and Twitter feeds that are focused on disaster services. So it's a good way to get a feel for the scope of the services that we provide. Because we talk about the Marathon explosion, Hurricane Sandy as large responses, but personally I'm closing in on about my 90th response in the last year and a half. So we need volunteers. People can sign up. It's not just waiting for the next marathon. Check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Go check the website, and you'll find ways to volunteer that can impact right tomorrow. People can become active tomorrow.
Well, now it seems like a great opportunity to watch a video or two to see some of the people that are making this impact.
Perfect.
You only know in a fire to get out, to escape, and now, okay, you're outside and you're safe. What do you do now? And that's where the Red Cross came in. We ran out of the house just wearing our pajamas, and at that point, just to even have a toothbrush that I could call my own was so important. It just makes you feel like a person again.
And we're back. So it's great to be here with my friend Paul Hoy, who is with the American Red Cross as a volunteer
Disaster captain.
Disaster captain. See, I didn't write it down. I should have written it down.
I feel your pain.
You know how I know that we are currently celebrating the 30th anniversary of Foxborough Cable Access, bringing good information to citizens of Foxborough?
And congratulations.
Well, thank you, but you know how I know it?
No.
Because we wrote it down right behind me. It's a big
I'm cheating looking over your shoulder.
Right. That's all I can remember. So anyway, with the American Red Cross Disaster Relief Services, there is room for volunteerism. There's a need? Or are you so full of people that you're turning people away?
There's a critical need.
Critical need.
Because we have, like any organization, we're organized like a pyramid. We have very many trainees. We have a lesser number of trained members who can help lead a response. We have a very short, small number of response supervisors. And we need to keep promoting people up through these ranks. Earlier I said that folks sign up for shifts to respond. Many nights we don't have enough people signed up. So if there's an incident in Foxborough, we might have to reach out and call people from a further community to come away. So we'll always respond to the need of our clients. But we need more volunteers to respond quicker, to respond with a better level of response, so our clients aren't waiting next to their burned out house any longer than they have to.
Now, thankfully, there's not a daily occurrence of the Boston Marathon or Hurricane Sandy or the ice storms that hit a couple years ago. So what is yes, indeed, knock on wood. So what is the typical commitment? If I'm volunteering with the American Red Cross, what can I expect my life to be like?
That's a great question. So first of all, we've been talking about disaster services, but moving up one level, there's very many opportunities to respond and volunteer within the Red Cross. So I can volunteer to be a health instructor. I can volunteer to work in disaster. We run 2 very large food pantries. I can volunteer and help at a food pantry on an occasional basis. We need office staff volunteers that can come in and just help with the follow-up with clients. So even though I'm representing disaster, I don't want your viewers to get the feeling that if I can't handle disaster, I can't volunteer. So first of all, we have tremendous opportunities for anybody who wants to volunteer. Now to disaster specifically, we look for people to make a commitment of 1 shift per month. Now that sounds...
1 shift per month?
That's all. That's all we're looking for.
So you must have a tremendous number of volunteers.
We do, and also, as I say, we also support each other well. And I have to be honest, with our volunteers at 1 shift a month, that's not enough to cover all of our service hour areas 24/7. So for example, a good number of my responses are to the city of Boston because we don't have enough volunteers signed up in Boston. Even though I'm on paper signed up to support the Foxborough, Mansfield, southern area. So we do have a lot of volunteers. We always need more. And then when they sign up for that 1 shift a month, literally, it shouldn't change your life. So for example, I could be on call right now and still be having this conversation with you. I can go out to dinner with my family. I can go to the soccer game and watch my kids play soccer. But when we're needed, I'm going to get a call on my cell phone, and then we're going to respond to wherever the incident is. So I'd like your viewers to know that you can volunteer. You don't have to go to 90 fires in a year. You can give your 1 shift a month and be available. And then we're fortunate enough to have many volunteers that give far more than that. So it's really whatever the volunteer wants to provide in terms of service.
So I'm going to get to one thing in a second, but of course, folks, since we're talking about volunteerism, and the American Red Cross needs you. If you can give a little more, give a little more, or give a lot, they can use you. Contact the American Red Cross either through their webpage or through their Facebook page at Red Cross /Red Cross MA, or on their Twitter feed at Red Cross MA. Or you can call them at 617-274-5231. Now, you had mentioned, Mr. Hoy, that it doesn't have to be life-changing. So any good volunteer opportunity I've found is a commitment, but it is also life-changing. So and this is going to go into your brag book, which you may or may not know, but the folks that you work with talk extremely highly of you, and they really term you as a super volunteer who gives his all.
They're very kind.
Well, they may be very kind, but also we all do what we do for a reason. We either do it for a paycheck, we do it for personal reward, we do it for our kids, we do it for family, we do it for our community. What is your driving motivation here? Why do you do this?
That's a really insightful question to ask, because you're right. There has to be something for the person being served, but there has to be something for the volunteer. I guess in my personal case, it really comes down to the ability to serve a client in the middle of the night who's having probably one of the worst moments of their life. Most of the people I work with at House Fires, they don't know what they're going to do 5 hours from now. They don't know literally where they're going. They're sitting looking at that fire.
If they're in the midst of a trauma, the last thing you're thinking of is the next step. You're looking at the here and now in the emergency situation. And probably a little shock involved, probably a lot of
and even
anger, angst, sadness, all the emotions.
Exactly. And even looking at that next step, even if they are looking at the next step, they don't know what it is. I no longer have a house. Where am I going to stay?
Their papers, their money, everything is in that house.
Exactly. So I take great personal satisfaction in being able to come and say, let me help you through the next couple hours. Let me help put you in a hotel. You've lost everything. Let me give you a little bit of money so you can start to replace food, start to replace clothing. We offer things called comfort kits, which are just toiletries that they can bring to that hotel. You don't even think about these people that, they don't have basics.
They've lost their everything.
Exactly. So the aid that we provide is immediate. When I leave the scene, the clients are on their way to a hotel that's paid for through Red Cross volunteer donors. They have a credit card for replacement food and clothing, again supplied through donor dollars. So there's that real sense of gratification in terms of helping them. So that's what motivates me, the ability that I can go out and help them be a little bit better, help them through their situation. The other thing that I take great pride in is helping with the readiness. So I am one volunteer, but I'm surrounded by many, many great volunteers as well. And if I can help build a team, I can leverage my ability to respond. I can leverage my talents. So I'm really proud of that 28-person team that we've built on the South Shore that literally didn't exist on January 1st of last year. So this is all a brand new team that's been built in Metro South in a year. So that ability to help readiness, both in terms of building the team and in making sure that the material's ready. We maintain about 15 shelter trailers throughout eastern Massachusetts, making sure that they're ready to go at a moment's notice. That helps me get some good return on my volunteer time investment, knowing that ability to help is there.
Well, it sounds like your family is also supportive of you if the first thing your wife said is, I'm okay, and then allows you to be free of mind, to be able to go and do what you needed to do.
I've been very, very fortunate, Bob, and I could not have done what I've done in the last year and a half without the support of the family, because there's a lot more nights away from home than you'd like to see in terms of family commitment time. So my wife and children are very supportive in that effort. I could not do it without that kind of support.
That's great. So for folks who want to get that kind of return, get that kind of feeling about supporting your neighbors and making for a better Red Cross response and a more professional, all-encompassing, all-reaching, because I'm a little surprised by the number of different areas that you touch, but as we sit here and think about it, yeah, those are all very important pieces. It's all about the logistics.
Right.
It's all about the logistics. So if you want to be part of the solution and volunteer with the American Red Cross, I suggest you reach out to our friends.
Please.
Of course, you can check them out at their website and also on their Twitter feed and also on their Facebook feed, or by calling them at 617-274-5231. And of course, as you know, fans of Foxborough Cable Access, I'm going to give you the last word here in just 1 second. You can always see a repeat of this program and get this information again by logging on to our website at www.fcatv.org, just like it says on our lovely mugs. We're going to fly out at the end of the program and watch one more video showing a volunteer who helps, was impacted, and makes a difference. But before we do, Paul, I'd like to give you the last word.
I appreciate that. I guess my message would be, if you're thinking about volunteering, don't hesitate. Go do it. You may be sitting now saying, I don't know how to volunteer, I don't know if I can do it. Just try it. Go get the training, sign up on the website, follow us on Facebook. But if you're at all thinking about volunteering, I really passionately advocate that you try it, because you're going to give a lot to a lot of people, but you're going to get a lot more in return. That sounds trite, but that's been my experience. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for letting me join you and speak.
Well, thank you for coming in and sharing your story, Paul, because I know that a lot of people at the American Red Cross are very proud of the work you do and very happy to have you as part of their organization. And hopefully, by having this little conversation and sharing all the good work you're doing, we're able to reach out and pay it forward and grab the next Paul Hoy. And I'm sure the next Paul Hoy is out there.
Absolutely.
Let's see if we can get him through this program. Until next time, folks at Foxborough Cable Access, thank you for taking the time to join me, my volunteers, as we learn about all the great things about Foxborough and surrounding environs. I leave you with this short video. Take care, Foxborough.
I thought I'd start the video by showing you the apartment building where the fire was. When things like this happen, I think you find a new perspective on life. Red Cross put us in a hotel, so we were able to stay together. We're strong, and if we overcame that, or if we can overcome that, we can overcome anything. So